in that, people can ask questions as they feel fit and, just chip in. So it's going to be some very informal conversations going through, and we'll just look to get started in a few more moments. Just going to give people a couple more minutes to begin.
Awesome.
We're about to go live. Hey Jill, how are we doing?
Just fine. How are you?
Fabulous, thank you.
Hey Jill.
Hey, I'm waving at Michael and everybody.
There. Good to see you, Jill. Hi. Lovely.
Well, I'm not in Florida.
No.
Where are you, Jill?
I'm in London right now. Normally I'm over there at Hippocrates teaching, but this year has changed.
Yes, I hear you. Okay. Very good, everyone. So we will now begin with the famous theme tune. Here we go. Enjoy. Right. Okay, everybody, thank you very much for joining me today at the Vegan Health Summit. Excellent to have you all here. We've got people from all over the world with times ranging from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it's quite amazing to have everyone in this virtual room. I mean, my original kind of idea was to bring everyone together to get some of the best minds and energies in the vegan space in one place, so that if anyone did have a question, no matter what it is, there's probably a certainty that at least someone here can answer it. So today we have speaking Dr. Klaper is going to be going up first, then Dr. Leo Venus, Koen, Vassen, Shaun, Dr. Yami, and then we've got Fed from Naturally Fed, who's going to be speaking last as well. So the way it's going to run is kind of 10-minute short presentations. There'll be a little bit more like a chat. And then from there, there'll be plenty of time for questions. But if anyone has got a question at any point, then please feel free to just drop it in the chat box. And we will answer as we go along. And if it's obviously needed to bring you onto the call, bring you to speak to the panel, then we can do that as well. So excellent, fabulous. So just a little bit about me. So my goal, I'm basically a fitness coach. I run Planted Fitness, and I help people to change their unhealthy processed lifestyle by incorporating more plants into it and basically bringing the joy back to healthy habits. And this basically helps them to rediscover their health. And my aim is to allow them to be 10 years younger in 10 weeks. So we will begin. Dr. Klaper, welcome along. We're going to start.
Thank you, Tom. Good to be with you and with all our wonderful guests. So what a wonderful world we live in that allows this today.
It really would have been completely mind-blowing just a few years ago, right? And I think it's easy to forget that. I remember as a child going to Epcot in Disney World, and they had this kind of thing, in this exhibit. I can't remember what it's called, Tomorrow's World or something. And I just remember thinking as a mere child, and I'm not that old yet, but that's incredible. And now it's just normality, right? So it's amazing to have everyone here, and thank you for your time. I do appreciate it on a Sunday. But Dr. Klaper, I wondered if we could discuss today a little bit about the almost infamous study that's come to surface over the last week, which is relating to vegan bone health. Obviously, it's quite a hot topic at the moment. Have you had a chance to look into that much at all?
Yes, I went through the studies, and there's a note of concern there, but I think we need to click back our viewing a little bit here. And first of all, and it's so wonderful that you're doing a vegan health forum, and it's really important. And I just want to start with being vegan, which I've been vegan now 38 years or so. And everyone on this forum, and I think people watching it know that, there's almost two spheres there. There's the reason that people are vegan, and less it's because of your cholesterol levels, or heavens knows, there are a lot of people go into a vegan diet because of their skin, their joints, or whatever, and they get this wonderful response. Yay, I'm all for that. That's why I make my living. I'm all for the power of the vegan diets. But as far as the people who stay vegan year after year, you stay vegan because your heart tells you it's the right thing to do. once you know, they say once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. And everyone who's come to a vegan diet and lifestyle, we know what happens in the slaughterhouses. We know what happens in the forests and the soils and the waters and this horrific plundering of the planet. And we just cannot contribute to that. And the taste of flesh in our mouths becomes something abhorrent. And so when you find yourself in that position, now we have to look at, all right, so now how do I eat in this manner to keep my body healthy? And we have to realize that none of us are living a natural life anymore. The food is not what our ancient ancestors ate, our daily life availability, all this. We can't kid ourselves, oh, it's not natural to take a supplement. Well, this is not a natural life we're living here. We got to do the best we can with the realities we face. And when it comes down to bones, yes, there's some population, some portion of the vegan population may be at higher risk for fractures. Why is this? Because, and I will invite all the viewers to go to my website, drklaper.com, all spelled out, DOCTORKLAPER.com, and go to the video section and see a video called Healthy Bones. And I go through the entire issue of bone physiology in some detail there. But to make a long story short, yes, you need healthy nutrition, and vitamin K2 might be the missing ingredient, and I'll come back to that. But very importantly, in the larger picture, osteoporosis and low bone density is not a nutritional issue. It's not no, I didn't eat enough calcium, eat more calcium, take more calcium pills. The entire bone structure is melting away. This is disuse atrophy of the bones. Bones respond just like muscles, which are attached to them. If you use your muscles every day, they get bigger, they hypertrophy, they get healthier. You stop using your muscles, you become sedentary or bedridden, and the muscles atrophy. And nature, has a rule: use it or lose it. Well, bones work the same way. In our bones, we have these little cells called osteoblasts, and they spin out new bone. But they'll only do that if you ask them to, and that means using those bones against gravity, carrying a load on your shoulders. Every time you carry a load on your shoulder, every step you take, a little gravitational force goes down your shoulder, down your spine, down your hips. And there's a subtle little distortion of the bone matrix, and that generates an electrical impulse that tells the osteoblast, hey, he's using us, she's using us, spin out more bone. And the bone cells say, oh, aye, sir, and they spin out new bone. This was outlined in the 1890s by Dr. Julian Wolfe, and this is Wolfe's law. The bones of a healthy animal or human will respond to the stress placed upon them. And we know this to be true. If you do bone density on professional tennis players or serving arm density, the bones are stronger than they are on the other side. The old time blacksmith, they had big bone density. The more, if you use bones, they stay strong all through your life. But 100 years ago, 300 years ago, we wouldn't be sitting around computers for hours at a time. We'd be outside gathering firewood, working in the gardens, lifting heavy buckets of soil and tools and water and firewood. And we were physical creatures. And osteoporosis wasn't really an issue. You stayed active, all the way into your 90s. You were out in the garden working, and bones stayed strong. But welcome to the 21st century. We become sedentary, and we sit when we eat, we sit when we work, we sit when we travel, we sit. And our bones are dissolving. This osteoporosis is largely, there's a nutritional component, but it's largely disuse atrophy of the bones, and our bones are dissolving. And we know that someone with low bone density starts using their bones, they get elastic bands, and they start using them a couple times a day. They get a little light-weighted vest, grab a couple of hand weights, and go for a nice 40-minute walk every day. Every step they take, that gravitational force makes their bones stronger. And you can reverse osteoporosis. Those osteoblast cells are still in your bones, waiting for you to ask them to do something, like lay out new bone. Now, where did this show up? I suspect, and the study was not very precise, very granular, but I suspect what happens, we've known for a long time, that among the vegan population, those folks who are most prone to develop low bone density are petite women of Caucasian or Asian ancestry. They start out with lower, more petite skeletons to begin with. And when you only weigh, 98 pounds, 102 pounds, 50 kilos or so, you ask these petite women ask so little of their bones as they walk, as they move, that there just isn't the gravitational force on their skeleton. And so as the decades go by the time they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s, living a sedentary lifestyle with this very light, petite frame, the bones say, she doesn't need us to have a big skeleton here. And so their bones get more petite, and if they fall, they fracture. So the upshot is that it's an issue, but no individual, this was over a large population, no individual vegan woman or person or man should allow their bones to get so petite or so fragile. We need to recognize this is an issue, and our lifestyles are very abnormal. And I really encourage everyone, but especially light vegan women, to take their bone health seriously and don't skimp the extra protein. You need a little extra protein in your diet. So an extra scoop of lentil stew, an extra bean burrito, an extra hummus sandwich every day will help your bones. Those dark leafy greens are really important for the vitamin K that the bacteria will produce. And the bacteria will also produce a variant that called vitamin K2, which is really important for bone health. And it could be that these people who have the fractures were really low in vitamin K2. I don't know how, they didn't list how much greens they were eating. There was no real dietary history. It was a pretty crude study on that level. But just a caution to vegan folks. Now, eat those greens. It's really important for the calcium, magnesium, and the vitamin K. But if you are taking a multivitamin, which seems to be a greater sense, but a very low potency one, and in other words, there's just 5 nutrients that vegans need to really get. Obviously, B12. Zinc can be a little challenging. Vitamin D can be challenging. Iodine for the thyroid, and vitamin K2. And these are there's quite a number of vegan vitamins now. They're out specially designed for vegan people with these 5 nutrients. And vitamin K2 is in there. And yes, you got to take some B12. You want to be a healthy vegan. Well, throw in some K2 along with it. And if you do those things, be generous with the calcium, with your protein. Make sure you're getting a source of K2. Eat those greens, and maybe throw down a vegan multivitamin a few times a week. And use those bones. We were not meant to sit in front of a computer 8 hours a day, like we do. Do go out and do something. Never miss a chance to walk upstairs. Never miss a chance to carry packages. You can, while you're sitting at your chair or watching TV, grab a couple of, I've got some light hand weights or cans of soup, and start using those bones. Use them or lose them. So I think the study zeroed in on a group of probably lean vegan women who let their bone density get too low. But it's in no way, then the media did what the media, see, vegan diets are bad for you. Ooh, makes your bones crumble. And so the meme gets sent out across the airwaves. But really, it's just a sign to honor the physiology that we have, make sure your nutrition is bone supportive, make sure your lifestyle is bone supportive. And no vegan should really ever get osteoporosis or be at a higher risk for fractures. It was a cautionary tale, fair enough. Don't get sloppy about your nutrition. But this is no way, then you got to start eating animals. The vegan diets don't work. That's what you're going to be hearing. And that's just silly. It means love your bones more is basically what that means. So that's what I took away from that study.
Yeah, thank you for that really in-depth reply. And I think I've been quite impressed with how the vegan community has responded to this, because it's not been, this is funded by the dairy industry. We know it's a genuine study from Oxford, and from what I've seen, most people are taking it seriously and actually, like you have, unpicking it logically and thinking, what can this tell us? And also maybe what did the study miss in that, it didn't control for fibre and that kind of thing as well, or there was low levels of fibre in the participants. So I think it's really refreshing to hear such a, level-headed, cool-headed reply. And I know, Dr. Leo, you've done a video on this as well, and it was a similar kind of response. So I think that's very positive. So in terms of just the concern with K2 in food, I know the only real vegan food that I know that contains K2 is natto. I don't know if anyone on the call has tried natto. There's generally always one. No, there's got to be someone in this room. This is a fermented Japanese food, which apparently is disgusting. So Dr. Klaper, you're saying that we don't necessarily have to consume a tablespoon of natto each day, but we can obviously supplement for the K2 in a different way, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the bacteria in your gut know how to make K2. They can turn K1 into K2. It doesn't happen very much, but the one reason to put lots of greens down there, it really, it is the most important food in our diet for so many reasons, not the least of which is that's where K2 ultimately comes from. But yes, taking some K2 makes some sense. And the multivitamin I take, yes, I don't take it every day, about 3 times a week. I'll take it with breakfast. And so far, my bones are doing okay.
Nice, brilliant. The Vegan Summit is not just for vegans as well, so it's not necessarily everyone here going to be vegan, but maybe people who are interested in hearing more about this lifestyle. And I think when you see headlines like this, it can be very off-putting, so it's great to have the reassurance from an expert such as yourself, Dr. Klaper. We are streaming live on Facebook as well, and the event will be recorded so it can reach more people. Now we're pretty much exactly to time. So does anyone have a question for Dr. Klaper on anything really? But if you want to go into a bit more detail in terms of the study, feel free to either unmute yourself or drop it in the chat box.
Yeah, I would like to go. I did actually see a very interesting video from Mick the Vegan. Probably most of you know him as well on YouTube yesterday, also about this topic. And he was going into some of the variables that they maybe overlooked when it comes to the study as well. And he mentioned BMI, like you said as well, Dr. Klaper, that a lot of the people in this study were female, middle-aged female, probably, like you said, probably quite smaller, petite women. And he also pointed out that BMI could play a role in that, because if you have a lower BMI and you fall, you're easily to fracture something, right? Especially because, if I understood correctly from the study, it was mostly that only hip fractures were significantly more within the vegan subject group than other fractures, if I understood correctly. Could that be playing a role in that as well?
Yes, I think so. It's very interesting that when people fall forward onto their wrist and they often get a fracture of the wrist, that did not seem to be increased here. And you're right, if you fall, the hip fractures require the entire weight of the body to fall right onto the head of the femur there. The lighter people, I suppose, would, well, that also has to do with the amount of muscle you have. The muscle not only absorbs the shock, but it braces the bone structure. And again, people who we get sedentary, we let our muscles, the term is sarcopenia, we let our muscles get thin and scrawny, and they just don't have the ability to protect the bones like they should. So you get a vegan person with low bone density and low muscle mass, and yeah, they go smack down on the head of their femur, bone's going to crack there. But again, another reason to don't let your muscles and bones deteriorate like that. Nature, she's always watching, and gravity never sleeps. So keep yourself strong on every level, bone-wise included.
Thank you for answering that.
Lovely. Does anybody else have any more questions before I go mental with mine? No? Don't be shy. Feel free to put it in the comments if you've got your camera off and you'd rather remain anonymous for now, other than a tag. Very good. So I do have an interesting fact for each speaker, actually, and you may or may not know that Dr. Klaper is a pilot. Dr. Klaper, where is your most favourite place to fly, shall we say? That's all I know. You're a pilot. I don't know any more, I'm afraid.
Oh, right. Oh my, I learned to fly in Northern California, and there's so many little hidden airports tucked away in these little valleys that we would run our various clinics in. I just love being in a left-hand seat, in the pilot seat of any airplane. I'm just such an aviation fan that put me at 8,000 feet anywhere in the left-hand seat, and I'm a happy guy. But I really enjoy Northern California because every time you land in the airport, you're in a different world in these little valleys that have their own culture. It's just a magic carpet to get around there. So, the only other thing is that it's high anxiety flying, and that if the engine quits, there's not a lot of places to put it down. Nice Florida is so flat that if the engine quits, you can land pretty much anywhere. So lower anxiety with Florida flying, I must admit.
Love it. And from flying to DHA, Dr. Klaper, I know about a year ago you released a YouTube video about omega-3 fatty acids. And this is something that I've watched over and over a few times because, you know, when people ask advice, I like to point them to, you know, people who like yourself and, you know, other people on this call. And I just wondered, I know there was an original video and then another video with further explanation on it. I just wondered what your thoughts are currently in terms of supplementing for DHA, the omega-3 fatty acid, for people who are considering, you know, a more plant-based lifestyle.
Right. My position is still in evolution on this one, in that we're aware DHA is this essential long-chain fatty acid that your body can make from a shorter fatty acid, linolenic acid, that's in the flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds and walnut. The question is that conversion sufficient? And does every vegan need to be taking supplemental DHA? Is the issue here, and something about that bothered me, and that you know, so many people live long, healthy vegan lives without taking DHA. And the body, if there's low levels of linolenic acid in the diet, the body gets more efficient in those converting enzymes. It gets better at that, but we can't reach into the cells and measure that. So people are just blindly throwing these recommendations out. And we have to look at the entire population. A pregnant woman, absolutely. She should be taking extra DHA. She should be taking 250, 300 milligrams of DHA. And people in advanced ages, you know, after 50 or 60 years of age, probably is not a bad idea. Don't have solid studies. Nobody has solid studies on that. It's the folks in the middle there. If you're to tell a 25-year-old vegan, you need to be taking DHA every day, even though they're putting 2 tablespoons of flax seeds on their cereal, they're eating a handful of walnuts every day, they're eating lots of deep, dark leafy greens, you need to be taking algae DHA. That doesn't make sense to me. And so for those healthy folks in the middle, you know, from teenagers on, till you get to age 50, assuming your diet truly is whole food plant-based. If you're a junk food vegan and you're living on energy drinks and granola bars, you probably should be taking DHA and a bunch of other things as well. You should be eating whole foods, basically. But if you're actually eating, and you're really eating that big plate of greens every day, and the handful of walnuts and the tablespoons of flax seeds, I don't think these folks need to be taking extra DHA. So I think for the general bulk of mid population there, as long as they're truly taking these linolenic acid rich foods, that they don't need to be taking supplemental DHA. Once you get past age 50, 60, you could probably make an argument for taking it. I'm 73. I've started taking DHA reluctantly because I still really do put we've got a big bowl of a big jar of ground flax, hemp, and chia seeds. 2 big tablespoons of that go in my oatmeal every morning. I have along with a handful of walnuts, lots of green. I really do eat that way. And when I checked my DHA level, which is really a strange thing we'll talk about. It was fine, just on the food I eat, and I'm 73. This bottle of DHA I got is already 5 months old. I just can't get into taking it because my diet is really so good and it feels really good. The DHA, people, well, just test. If you're low, then take it. If you're not low, then the problem. So last time I checked into this, the technology of the testing is really needs to be improved in that they took the same blood specimen, sent it to 5 or 8 different labs and for DHA levels, and they got these wildly varying results back. The very high, very low, in the middle, same blood test, same blood specimen. And to the point where you realize their technology is still pretty crude. That, you know, they say a man, someone with 2 watches on the wrist never knows what time it is, you know, and the same thing with these tests. Your level is 4.8%. Well, but maybe in another lab it's 7.8, maybe another lab it's 2.8. What do these numbers really tell me? So I haven't been able to get a lot of encouragement from testing. So here I am still. I'm going to do some more research at the end of the year, as I promised, in December, to check in on the testing and all this again. But my general feeling is, if you're a truly healthy young person, you're really eating the green and the sunflower, the chia and hemp and flax seeds, etc. You don't need to be taking supplemental DHA. But once you hit 50, 60, you should look into it again. But again, it's so hard to look at an individual person and determine what's really going on in their brain tissue. Now, well, it's benign. Well, it's not necessarily. And I've got a couple of hesitation. One, when you take supplemental DHA, you suppress the metabolism of EPA and other fatty acids. You can't do one thing in the body. Something always changes. And I don't know if those changes are good or not. And second, supplemental DHA increases permeability of cell membranes. Things get into cells when there's more DHA in the cell membranes. That's nice, but I live in South Florida where the drinking water has carcinogens. There's hydrocarbons and pesticides in the drinking water here. And here I am making my brain cells more permeable to those carcinogens by taking extra DHA. Am I increasing my risk for brain tumors? I don't know. Nobody knows. And so when we make these recommendations, well, take some DHA, it's harmless. I don't know if it's harmless, and at this point. So that's why I started bridling at the idea. Everybody, if you're vegan, you need to be taking supplemental DHA. Well, maybe not. So eat those flax and chia and hemp seeds and check in with me at the end of next month. I promise at the end of the year, December, I will reassess the situation. I will contact these labs, see what their testing things are, see how reliable they feel it is, and see if there's any new literature on this. So stay tuned. I'll be putting out a video at the end of next month. But so I'm on the fence about this. It's not a settled issue at all.
Thank you, Dr. Klaper. Appreciate that. And 40 years vegan, right, or around that?
I'm sorry?
For yourself, 40 years vegan, am I right?
For 1981. So yeah, going on 40 years. Yeah, right.
Wow. Feel like such a newbie here, but thank you very much for that, Dr. Klaper. Please feel free to stay in. We're going to move on to the next speaker now, but if anyone does have any questions, please pop them in the chat box and we will get to them. So, Dr. Leo Venus, how are you doing today?
Not bad. Thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, great, thanks. So just to give you a bit of an intro, Dr. Leo Venus is a medical doctor and public figure who focuses on spreading his message of health and science. There's a few various platforms that he utilizes, YouTube, Instagram. And in addition to this, he's also a vegan strength athlete, focusing on helping serious vegans, I quote, to implement their best possible holistic lifestyle and promoting the benefits of being a happy soy boy, of course, right?
Exactly.
So Dr. Venus's academic background includes a bachelor's degree in bioengineering from Norwegian University of Science and Technology, as well as a medical degree from Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland. Now, after completing his degree in bioengineering, which is heavily laboratory focused, he realized he wanted to work more directly with people. Consequently, the decision was made to pursue medicine. Interesting fact for Dr. Leo Venus, he speaks 4 languages, and I would love to hear what they all are.
Well, thank you. That was a great introduction. Glad to be here. I have to apologize actually, first of all, because when I was planning my day today, I thought we were starting this at 1 p.m., but that was UK time. So we actually started 2 p.m. my time. So at 3 p.m., I actually have to run to some previous commitments.
No problem.
Even though I would love to stay here for longer. So that was my mistake. But yeah, I'd love to go through any questions as much as possible in the time that I have. And in terms of my four languages, that's just a result of my background. Basically, me and my siblings were dragged around the entire world growing up. So, we lived in Norway, Brazil, US, Ireland, Spain, just, all over the place. So it's basically Portuguese from my mother's side. She's from Brazil, and then Norwegian from my dad's side, and then we also learned Spanish and English growing up. So those are the 4 languages.
Amazing. It must give you a real extended perspective on life, because with more language, almost more understanding, right?
Yeah, I mean, the language is one aspect of it, but another aspect is just seeing so many different cultures growing up and seeing so many different ways of living life, right? Because there's this almost this danger if you're growing up in only one place, you only see one way of doing things. It's one tradition, one culture, one point of view, and I almost start falling into this trap of thinking this is how we do things, this is the quote unquote right way to do things, but you're forced in a way when you're living from country to country and seeing all of these different ways of living. You're forced to it's just so obvious right in front of your face that, hey, people live differently in different parts of the world and they're completely happy and fine, and it's not like there's one way of doing things. So it really does open your mind to the reality that there's a lot of nuance in life, and not everything is as black and white as some of us may think.
Yeah, 100%. I think this is one thing that I really admire about you. It's not, just that you're a medical doctor and all the work that you do in that field, but also your kind of mindset on life and your, outlook on human psychology and how we can kind of move this community forward in more of an intelligent way, rather than just shaming people and judging people. But Dr. Leo, I wanted to talk to start with just about, our culture that we're currently living in. And I'm from a small town in the north of England called Cleethorpes. And in Cleethorpes, you know it?
No, I haven't. I don't know it, but it's interesting.
I would be very surprised if you did know it. It's very small. But anyway, in this place, there are a few little shops, independent shops, and one of them is called Spill the Beans. You go into Spill the Beans, and it's like fresh out of the 80s. You go in, you take your lentils, you weigh it out, you take it to the shop. And I always used to think, this place has got to be going out of business soon. But now we live in a world of, trying to become more plastic free, trying to become more conscious. I think that this is actually the future. So for me, in my lifetime, my big goal is to try and change the culture of what consumers buy in terms of processed foods, and that we go into a shop and it looks more like Spill the Beans rather than, all these processed foods that we see as we go down the supermarket aisle. So Dr. Venus, I was just wondering, really, I mean, this is a big challenge and it's a life goal for me, and I'm sure most of the people on this call, but what's the best next steps for us, do you think, of us achieving this kind of world? Obviously, it's not just about our health, it's also about the planet and the animals, but where would you say are the next steps for us?
Well, that is a huge question. I mean, first of all, it's really cool that you have that background. I have kind of a background in a tiny village in Norway as well, and it's cool that they have that sort of a store, because that's pretty impressive for a small village. But yeah, 100%. It's not just about the vegan community, just people in general. We're seeing the reduction in meat in the Western world is coming mostly from people who do eat meat, who are just eating less and less of it, right? And people are becoming more and more aware and more conscious about their buying decisions. So we are definitely going in the right direction, and that's very, very positive, very inspiring. In terms of where to go, I think really we live in, pragmatically looking at things, we live in a world where basically it's about how to hit the most amount of people, how to impact the most amount of people. And in order to do that, we need all avenues of influence to be active, right? Whether we're talking about TV stars, or we're talking about social media, we're talking about media stations, doctors, every part of society that has an influence on how people think and act needs to kind of be a part of this. And I think that's like kind of a natural way. It's not like one person is going to go and make all of these changes in the entire world, but it's a natural change that happens all over society. And I think I'm very optimistic. I think things are going to change very, very quickly in the next 20, 30 years. But yeah, I think one of the really, really important things is to have a little bit of an understanding behind human psychology, communication, all these things. I mean, I've been vegan almost 8 years. Doesn't seem like a lot now that Dr. Klaper is here. But during those 8 years, I've had a ton of experiences from, in my first few years, trying to get my friends, trying to get my classmates, first years of medical school, trying to, I had this pressure on myself, like, I know this thing that is so important. I have a responsibility for other people to understand this. And I was, I would go about how to make people see things from this point of view. And through trial and error, through offending a lot of people, through getting lots of angry arguments, you slowly but surely start finding out, wait, there's a few things that tend to work very well, and there's a few things that are definite no-nos, right? And I think the issue comes when we have a partial understanding, and we have such a complex world, when we have the people who have this kind of mindset that we talked about before, with this black and white, like things are either right or wrong. This is the right way to do, this is the wrong way to do, you're a good person, you're a bad person. Then you lose out a lot of the complexity that exists in life. And you lose a really, really great opportunity to connect with the person you're talking to at the level they're at, because you don't establish that mutual connection, that actual understanding of where they're at and where do we go forward. So I think, in medicine, this is it's very relatable, because at least in my university in Ireland, we only started having communications courses, I think 6 or 7 years ago. So before that, doctors would not get any communication training. I don't know how it was when you trained, Dr. Klaper. No communication.
Patient, really.
Yeah, exactly. So
very important to listen to the patient.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that's definitely becoming more and more of a focal point, for sure. So I think it's a question of just being positive, being encouraging, being like a coach to people around you, instead of shaming people and telling them, this is terrible, don't do this or that. Is to really understand how human beings work and really encourage every step of the way. Look, you're eating less meat, great, right? Instead of being, oh, that's not good enough, right? You're being healthier, you're training more, great. And just keep encouraging people around you, and cooperating with people, having good vibes. People are feeling creatures. We're not logical people. Don't do exactly what's right or what makes sense all the time. So if you tell people the facts, most people aren't gonna give a crap about that. Excuse my language. Really, it's about the feelings. And if someone is feeling shamed and they associate all these negative emotions with every time they meet someone who's vegan or talking about veganism, they're going to have a very negative outlook when it comes to veganism as a whole. So we need to make this a positive movement, a movement of inclusivity and encouraging positivity, in my opinion.
Yeah, fantastic. Just picking up on a point that you mentioned there about, the kind of doctor-patient relationship and it being more of a coaching kind of relationship. I've never really thought about that before. I mean, certainly in the UK, you kind of go to your GP surgery, you've got 10-minute slot. If you've got more than one ailment, you have to book 2 slots and you're in and then you're out. But people need generally, I mean, my work as a fitness coach, a lot of it's accountability and helping them to build structure in the lifestyle and that kind of thing. So obviously moving towards more of a kind of coaching relationship rather than just a traditional kind of doctor-patient relationship would surely be more optimal for people's health, right?
Absolutely, I think so. And I'd be interested in hearing everyone else's opinion as well. But I think, compliancy, for example, is an issue we've always had in medicine, where doctor says, do this, patient says, no, I will not do this. And they go home and they don't take your advice. And so again, it all comes down to communication. Are you understanding how to have the best impact on your patient? Are you giving them the sense of autonomy, the sense of self-control and respect that they need in order to make a decision together, right? So we're moving away from the relationship where the doctor says and you do, to the doctor advises and explains and aids you in making your decision together. And this is a very, very important change, I think, that is becoming, again, more and more popular around the world. We're moving away from this patriarchal kind of relationship where it's like the doctor tells you what to do and you just listen to the doctor, right? So and this is in every single field. I think it's, again, comes down to human psychology and communication. So I think that's definitely where we're going to see things going forward.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Does anyone have any kind of further comments on that, or have any questions relating to what Dr. Venus just mentioned? Dr. Yami, is this something that you kind of resonate with in your work, seeing clients in practice and kind of more of a coaching relationship rather than doctor-patient?
Well, I think it's really interesting what Dr. Leo brought up. For the most part, I agree. And especially with the newer generations, I think that the coaching relationship is more helpful, beneficial, and you're going to get a lot more accomplished. However, I am a health and wellness coach, so I do work also with adults, even though I'm a pediatrician, and I have had the experience of working with older adults from older generations that it was probably the easiest ever, because I had one lady that came in that was in her 70s, and I planned to see clients for several times, sometimes over 6 months, but it only took 2 sessions because she was just like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I explained to her, she had just been diagnosed with diabetes. I explained to her what kind of things she could be able to change, and she did it and she got better, and that was it. So, I think understanding generational studies can also help us when we approach patients. But I think the main thing is we meet patients and clients where they are and find out from them how they want to proceed. For the younger generations, that coaching relationship works really well, but culturally and also for some older generations, sometimes the more doctor-patient relationship works well too. So I think it has to be individualized, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because in most of life we have a different method for doing different things, right? For example, going back to the language learning, if you want to learn a language, you might be a visual person, you might be someone who responds better to just practicing by speaking, and so we're kind of more open-minded to adjusting in that way. But then when we're looking at doctor-patient relationship, it's very, very kind of regimented, right?
Yeah, I think 100%, and I completely agree with everything Dr. Yami said, and I think it comes back to this the complexity of human psychology and life. It's exactly what it's about, right? Is having that understanding, meeting people where they're at, and being able to communicate in a way that is relatable for them. So 100%, there is no one way to fit everyone, and I think the approach where you adapt your approach to the person you're talking to is obviously going to be much, much better. And again, relating a little bit to the black and white thinking, I think the last thing I would like to say, as well as when Dr. Micheal Klaper was talking about how veganism is first and foremost something you do out of your heart, right? It's something is the right thing to do. It is not necessarily something that you do because it is 100% proven to be the healthiest way to live. Mm-hmm. So the other thing I would like to talk a little bit about is because you see in at least in my experience and through both in-person interactions to social media, there are a lot of these, I guess you could call them perspectives or beliefs that as long as I train, I'm healthy, right? Or as long as I eat healthy, I'm good. Or as long as I get my sleep, I'm good. There's this tendency to oversimplify health. And health is not this thing that, okay, as long as I'm working out every day, I can eat whatever I want, I can do whatever I want. It's, again, it's a lack of understanding where we try to oversimplify everything because there's this tendency that, it feels more comfortable to think we know all the truth, but in reality, we know such a small portion of all the knowledge in the world. So it's important to always be open-minded and realize the nuance, realize it's not black and white. And when it comes to health, it's really about a combination of all of the factors that have been shown to increase longevity and health, right? So yes, diet is extremely important. Eating whole foods, vegetables, fruits and seeds, whole grains, legumes, herbs and spices, water is your drink of choice. And then there's training that also relates to the bone fracture stuff, right? Training is not just about losing weight. It's about having healthy bones, healthy tendons, healthy muscles to actually support the structures of your joints. The weight bearing, and that's actually one of the reasons why I also recommend, and it's recommended by all the big lifestyle authorities, that everybody do some sort of resistance training. It's not just to grow your muscles, but it's also for bone and joint health. And then there's sleep as well. So this culture of like, sleep is for the weak. We caffeinate and work hard and forget your sleep. Sleep is extremely important. Stress management is another one, right? Mental health, psychology. I think psychology is probably one of the most underrated aspects of health. Our brains and the rest of our bodies are interconnected. There are neural connections, there are hormones, there are biological connections between. It's one system, right? It's not like mental health is here, physical health is here. It's all an interrelated system. And there are a lot of ways that we can actually prime ourselves to become healthier and healthier. So I think it's very, very important to always think in terms of the whole perspective and not get too narrow-minded, not oversimplify health to, okay, I eat healthy, I'm good, or, oh, I train every day, I'm good. It's really about taking all of these factors that are under your control as much as possible in order to benefit from all of these lifestyle factors.
Yeah, absolutely. The big picture is very important, right? Dr.
Well said.
Venus, thank you so much for your comments there. This, as you can see, is very much quick fire, quick changes, and we could speak to every guest for 2-3 hours, but we have to move on, unfortunately. So we are going to go to Koen, Vassen next, and we've got Dr. Yami, and then after that we've got Shaun, and then Fed from Naturally Fed as well. So Koen, welcome along. Oh, you're on mute.
I am here. Thanks for having me.
All good?
I'm good. How are you? All good.
Very good, very good, very good. So Koen is owner of the Vegan Academy, and he leads a powerful community of busy vegans to help them live their best life possible with plants. Now, Koen was inspired to venture into this field basically from your family experiences, right? You had some health issues with your family, and that inspired you to kind of look at your own health in a bit more detail, and then from there create the Vegan Academy, and the rest is history. He also has a podcast, the Vegan Academy again, and his interesting fact is, relating to what we were speaking about before, most of Koen's adult life he lived on Red Bulls and ready meals, going from eating no veg at all to only eating plants. So what was that transition like, Koen?
Yeah, well, difficult to say the honest, but also easy in its own way, because I had a very big drive and I had a very big reason why I wanted to do it. And that's also something that I am passionate about sharing today, is that like there's so much information out there, right? Like to a large degree, we all understand how to live a healthier lifestyle, right? That we have to eat more plants, that we can move a bit more, that we have to care for our sleep, the things that Dr. Leo Venus just mentioned as well. But even though there's so much information out there, we don't always act upon that, right? It's difficult to actually implement these things and actually sustain those healthy habits into our lives. And why is that? That's definitely something that I have been questioning myself a lot. And that's also why I help people with that, which is like one of my main focuses within within the Vegan Academy. I'm super passionate personally about like whole food, plant-based and intuitive eating. But I've seen that if you are not able to incorporate something into your life, well, then all this information is not so valuable by itself. It becomes valuable when you can actually apply it. And that's what I really want to help people do. So that's also what I come to share here a little bit today. I don't know if you wanted to ask like any questions in between, or you want me to continue on this and share what I have prepared for you today.
Yeah, I would love to hear what you've prepared, Koen.
Yeah.
Unless anybody has any burning questions at the beginning for Koen.
Awesome. Yeah. No questions in between?
I think so. Nothing in the chat box. No, after you, Koen.
Okay, great. Yeah, first of all, let me say also just thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm very honored to speak along such great names within the vegan community. So it feels really empowering for me to be able to do that also. And yeah, the topic that I shared today has everything to do with how to make sustainable lifestyle changes. And this really comes from my perception of there's so much information out there. We tend to overconsume. We tend to keep looking in the next book, keep listening to the next podcast, keep looking the next YouTube video for that information, that holy grail that is going to help us live a healthier lifestyle, while we forget to actually take action. Because as long as we keep thinking about it and don't do it, it's always just going to stay a dream. It's always going to stay something outside of us that's never really make it into a habit and make it into a lifestyle. So too many ideas, but not enough action. That's what I hope to inspire a little bit today. And I think that has for a large part also to do with the fear that we have, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment in our environment. What do people think? What will my parents think? What will my partner think? What will my friends think if I suddenly go vegan? Like talking about veganism today. That's what a lot of people limit from actually taking action, and also that self-doubt, like not trusting themselves or not having the confidence in themselves that they actually think that they can actually pull this off. And this all comes down to taking action. When you take action, when you do things out of your comfort zone, you build up that momentum for yourself that actually is going to make it easier for you to create these new habits and create that lifestyle that you really want to live. So I identify 5 steps for that, 5 steps that can help you make sustainable lifestyle changes, and I will go through them now together with you all. And the first step is start with the end in mind. I am personally very inspired by the work of Covey when it comes to personal development. John R. Covey, it's someone who I've been observing and watching for pretty much the large period of the last decade. And start with the end in mind is something that he always teaches, is like, if you know where you want to go to, it's so much easier to go there, right? Like if you have a ship, or Dr. Klaper, I heard you were a pilot. If you have a course, if you know where you want to fly towards to, it's easier to get there. If you just fly around, it is very hard to reach your destination. And I really see that when it comes to our lifestyle and the things that we want to achieve, just in the same way. So who is that person that you really want to become? How do you want to feel? I think it's very important to ask yourself those questions, because from awareness comes change. I think that awareness is really the first step when it comes to actually bringing change into your lifestyle. And once you know, you can act upon it. And the thing with that is that also within the brain, the more, how would you say it? Like the more insecurity, or the more unknown there is within the brain, the more room for thinking around, and the more room for loose ends, maybe, the less likely you're going to actually start. So I always say start with the end in mind, know where you want to go towards to, because then it's much easier to reverse engineer that process, see like, okay, now what is actually the path and the plan that I can think of to get me there. So start with a vision, ask yourself these questions. What do I want in life? How does that look? How is that going to make me feel? Because that's just the start of the whole process. And from there on, a very important question, which I spoke already a little bit in the previous part, is like finding out your why. What I see for myself and what I see around me with a lot of people is that one of the biggest reasons why we don't sustain something, or one of the bigger reasons why we tend to not last the new habits or the new lifestyle, is because we either don't have a strong reason why we do it, or we do it for the wrong reasons. As I've been working in the fitness industry as well, I worked in gyms, I did personal training in the past. I had often people coming up to me that wanted to have certain physical results, right? Men that wanted to have a six-pack, women that wanted to have a certain booty. And even though it's good to have whatever goal you have or you want to have, I always think that there's a bigger reason behind that. And the less we tend to focus on these external or superficial results, and the more we ask ourselves the deeper questions, like, what am I truly going to get out of that? Why do I want to have that six-pack? Or why do I want to lose that weight or have that certain physique? it often has something to do with how it's making us feel. So when you can tap into that, when you can tap into your internal why, from just doing something because it is a have to, something becomes really like a non-negotiable. Like it's not, even though I'm so focused on my health and my well-being, and I tend to eat healthy and I tend to move and work out a lot, it's not something that I am motivated, quote unquote motivated 100% of the time. I have my days when I couldn't be bothered to cook a healthy meal, or I have my days where I don't feel like working out, but I still do it because it's part of the lifestyle that I want to live, and it's part of the vision and the person that I want to be and how I want to feel. So it's so important to me that I do it no matter what happens. And I think that's very important, that you create that internal accountability for yourself and with yourself, that no matter what is happening around you, you're just going to do it. And one exercise that really worked for me and works for people that I work with is the pain and gain list. So take a piece of paper, write down on top of it pain, and really identify for yourself what would happen if you don't act on that vision that you have. And that can be in various aspects. It can be on the physical side, it can be on the emotional side, on the mental side, but it can also, for example, be on financial side. If I don't act on this, and if I don't tend to get more productive and feel better about myself, I could lose money in my business, or it can cost me a relationship. If you have a clear image for yourself what it can cost you, it is often better stick behind the door to actually drive that change for you. And on the opposite side, you have the gain side. So what is it actually that you will benefit from acting, because that can help as a internal motivation. Like it's important to be aware of why you do this and what you can get by following up on this. So having a clear pain and gain can help you to identify your why. And for me, this is really one of the most underestimated and actually one of the most important processes when it comes to creating lifestyle changes, sustainable lifestyle changes. Step 3 has everything to do with setting the right goals. Maybe goals have become a little bit, how to say it, like overused, or I think the good thing about having goals is that it gives structure to you. It's not that you cannot achieve something without setting a proper goal, but a goal gives direction, and also it makes you know when you actually achieved it. If you want to lose that weight, well, it's very easy to put on a certain number as a goal, and in a month weigh yourself again and see if you actually achieved that goal. So it can give you direction. But what a lot of people tend to do is that we tend to make our goals too big, and then we don't take action. So we tend to look at the mountain as the ultimate goal and forget that we actually have to start at the bottom of it. So when you have certain goals, it's important that you break them down in something that is very specific and something very measurable. And that's why I like to use the SMART method, because it's just the easiest and the most straightforward method of actually creating proper goals. The thing with that is also that when you make something more specific, you know what it actually is that you need to do. So instead of having something vague, which is causing us not to take action, because if you say, I want to be healthier, like what actually is that? What does it mean specifically to be healthier? Is that you want to drink more water, or is that you want to go running more? Like what is that exactly what you mean in a specific action point? And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. We have this idea, but we don't make it specific enough. So then we don't do it because it's easier not to do it. So you have to make it as easy as possible for yourself and make the action step as small as possible, especially when it comes to creating a new habit, to actually start with it. So that's definitely something that I see where people struggle with, making it too big and making it not specific enough, which actually limits them from taking action in the first place. And from there on, when you start with it, is of course super important that you're actually going to stay consistent, because consistency is actually what builds up the habits. So consistency is actually what's going to make sure that you start living a new lifestyle, because it's not just doing something once in every while that is going to change your life. It's the things that you do consistently that are going to have the biggest amount of change or effect on your life. So how can you actually stay consistent? Well, there's a few ways that work maybe a little bit better than others one, and that's for sure having the right support. If you have to do everything by yourself, well, we are social creatures, so we are not meant to do everything by ourselves. And you might have days where you are more motivated, might have days where you are just more into it than other days. So it's important to surround yourself with people that go through the same things, surround yourself with people that maybe experience these kind of things already, so that they can share their support with you, that they can share what happened on their journey, their obstacles, how they dealt with certain events, because it just can help you and inspire you to be better, and to also feel that you're not alone. I think that's super important, and especially now where we feel more isolated probably than ever, I think it's so important on your journey to have that support around you. And when it comes to support, it also creates accountability. If you share your goals with people around you, it creates accountability outside of you. Well, it is easy to say to yourself, I'm going to work out 5 times a week, but it's also easy then to say to yourself, well, I can also do 4 times, or I can also do 3 times. But when you share that goal with someone else and say, hey, Tom, together next week, we're gonna work out 5 times a week. And then next week you report to Tom, yeah, I didn't work out today. Yeah, I did. And you kind of feel bad. Not that you need to feel bad about it, but you kind of do. And I think that's also why having a coach or having someone around you that holds you accountable for the actions is very important. And the last step is doing something that you actually enjoy, because when you do things that are enjoyable, they are more sustainable. I think when we look online, we tend to be too much focused on what other people do and what in the rules of social media influencers or in the rules of fitness coaches, etc., are the things that we have to do. Like, you need to go to a gym to have a certain physique, you need to eat X foods to have a certain health. We tend to forget what we actually want to do. And in the end, it's your life. So if you want to make it sustainable for yourself, you got to do the things that you actually enjoy. Maybe you're not a gym person. Well, then maybe you like cycling, or maybe you like swimming, or whatever it is. Find that joy in the things that you actually like to do. And for me, the whole reason why it's so easy for me to keep eating healthy almost every single day is because I eat the foods that I really like to eat. I never feel like I miss anything. I never feel like I need to compensate with something, or that I need to go out for meals, because everything that I really want to eat, I eat it on a daily basis. And I eat very often the same foods, the same meals, because I enjoy them so much. And every time I'm surprised by how good it tastes. So I think that's a really important thing when it comes to changes, making it so that you actually enjoy it, and don't do it because you have to do it, but do it because you want to do it. And then the last step 5, has everything to do with keeping your jaw sharp. Another Covey reference, has everything to do with just reflecting and repeating on your process. We often I think the 1st of January is a great example of that. We start enthusiastic, we start motivated, we want to achieve a certain goal, but after 2-3 weeks, it's not like exciting anymore. And we tend to stop. We have paid for the gym membership, but then halfway through February, we're not going anymore. And why is that? Is that because we don't continuously keep reflecting on that process? We also tend to focus too much on motivation instead of the why, and doing things that we actually enjoy. So that's why it's so important to me that you keep reflecting on those 4 previous steps, and use those pain gain lists, use your why as something to reflect on often, to keep you focused on what you actually want to achieve. Because if you remember yourself often enough of the price, so to say, the vision that you have, how you want to feel, it is way easier to keep acting on that. So these are the 5 steps that I help people with, get the results that they want to get, and just make those sustainable lifestyle changes in a way that you can actually enjoy it for yourself. So thank you.
Thank you, Koen. That was great. Just listening to you there, one thing that really resonated with me is when you mentioned about, you know, the people who you're kind of with and the environment. I just got a quick question around, you know, some clients that I've worked with have had big troubles, like they're on a health kick, if you know, want to phrase it like that. They want to improve their life. They want to feel better. They want to do more things, but the environment that they're surrounded in and the people that they're kind of associating with, and this might be family or friends, you know, whether they're a student or not, is kind of very different, and them almost stepping into that new territory of trying to become someone different is met with resistance. How would you say there's any tips on, you know, how you can kind of control your success while you're in an environment that might be a little bit more challenging?
Yeah, I think it's first of all, it's important to realize that that's what can happen. You know, in general, people don't like to see you change because it brings up a unconscious part in them that they are not changing. So a lot of people like you the way you are for the person that you are, and makes them uncomfortable seeing you grow and seeing you change. That's what happens to a lot of people as well. So I think first of all, it's important to just be aware of that process, and people don't mean harm to you. People don't mean it in a bad way, but it's just that subconsciously it makes them uncomfortable in a lot of cases. I think what is a huge one is actually bringing people along on your journey. So if you can speak out, because it's very often with close friends and partners and family. So if you have wrote down, for example, your pain and gain, I know a lot of people want to live healthier because they want to be able to be there for their family. They want to live longer so that they can be a better parent or a better role model for their kids. So when you bring that perspective into a conversation with your partner or your family, I think it creates a lot more understanding from both ends, why you actually want to do that. And it makes it less like a friction point when you make it about the other person as well. So, and also I really like the point that Dr. Leo Venus gave, like try to frame it from like their point of view, try to come to their level and understand like, why is it actually that they find this difficult to deal with? What is creating that friction with that person? And how can you make them help root for you instead of against you? I think that's where you gotta focus on, is try to bring that bridge. And especially if these are the people that are closest to you, it's easy to say like, I walk out the door, I don't want to deal with these people. But yeah, especially if it's a partner or family, that's probably not the thing that you want to do, and also probably not the thing that is really going to help you. Excellent. How to keep enthusiasm when life is tough.
Beat me to it.
Yeah, I just saw it pop up. Great question, actually. I think it's everything to do with finding the joy in the little things and the simple things. I'm personally guilty on that myself as well. I can definitely put my hands up for focusing on external things. I've been in retail management. I was quite a high performer, high achiever. I'm still quite someone that has high standards for himself. And sometimes we tend, also because of consumerism and marketing and all these kind of things, we tend to look way too much on that external gratification. And we're always looking for the next thing that gives us that sense of validation or sense of happiness, while in the end, it always comes from within. And for me, I said, like, recently shared something about it on my Instagram as well. Like for me, 2020 has had everything to do with finding the joy in the simple things in life. And I think the more you express gratitude for these simple things. I was talking with my grandparents yesterday on the phone for 45 minutes. It's fabulous talk. And I was saying, like, they asked me how I'm doing. I said, yeah, fantastic. We have a roof over our head. We have clean clothes. We have quality food to eat. We have clean water to drink. And that, I think that's really the mindset to obtain. And I don't say that I 100% always feel like that every single day, because we're human and we have different rays of emotions and different days of the week and different times of the years. And that's also okay. But I think the more you focus on what you have, the easier it is to stay enthusiastic and to not get, to get so down about what's all happening outside of us. And that is also, I think the second part is also where you focus on, where attention goes, yeah, right. So especially now, like unplugging your TV might be one of the best things you can do for your physical and mental health, because yeah, what does the TV do? It puts us on a certain state and lets us think a lot of fear and anxiety. Well, that's maybe not the best thing for you right now. So unplug from social media, unplug from media in general, and focus on the things that you can actually control, and spend more time with your family and things that you can control.
Yeah, that's great. And I think just remembering as well, in a similar way to, you know, if you want to get better at doing a squat, you're going to have to do more squats. If you want to be better at, you know, gratitude and just really appreciating life, it does take work as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. And there are ups and there are downs, and that's, I think, also the beauty of life.
Lovely. Does anyone have any more questions for Koen at all before we move on? Perfect. Well, Koen, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. Definitely, you know, needed in these challenging times, and very useful, I think, to anyone who is, you know, looking at leading a more healthy life. So we're going to take a little pause, guys, about a minute and a half, just to grab a drink. Thank you, Koen, or whatever you fancy. And then we're going to go to Dr. Yami. We'll be talking about intuitive eating and health at every size. And after that, we've got Shaun coming up, talking about his amazing work with schools. And then finally, we've got Fed from Naturally Fed, who's going to be talking a bit about the guts microbiome. So guys, we'll literally take 90 seconds and I will play some annoying music again, and then we'll be back. Thank you, guys. So if you're joining us live on Facebook, feel free to jump on the link below and jump on the Zoom call where we can answer any questions. So it's been a great event so far. I do appreciate everyone staying with us for this time. We had Dr. Klaper starting, and then Dr. Leo Venus. Koen Vassen has just taken his presentation, and now we move on to Dr. Yami. Dr. Yami, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. So fun.
Not at all, not at all. Dr. Yami unfortunately had to get up at 5 a.m. just to say again, appreciate the commitment. But Dr. Yami is a board certified pediatrician, certified lifestyle medicine physician, certified health and wellness coach, author and speaker. Dr. Yami, like everyone here, promotes the power of plant-based lifestyle to promote the prevention of chronic disease. And Dr. Yami creates big impact in the community by educating families on the importance of making healthy choices and guiding them with how they can integrate this into their lifestyle. Host of Veggie Doctor Radio, really great podcast if you've not seen that one yet. And also, interesting fact, Dr. Yami, when she started at first grade in the United States, did not know how to speak English. Lots of language first, interesting facts today, but that's incredible. How long did it take for you to become fully, if you can remember, fully fluent, shall we say?
Well, I don't remember. I just know my mom would tell the story of my teacher, because I guess my teacher didn't realize I didn't speak English, but she just knew that every time she gave a direction to the class, I would just kind of look around and see what everybody else was doing and then just do what they were doing. So I don't remember being intimidated or scared about it. And they put me in remedial reading because I really only started my education at first grade and I didn't speak English yet. But I advanced so quickly that they had to kick me out because I wanted to be the one that, read out loud every time, because obviously I'm a performer at heart. So even from the beginning, I was like, no, I want to read the passage. So they had to kick me out of remedial reading because I wasn't giving any of the other children a chance.
Wow. That's claim to fame, right? So do you think that kind of, that performer in you, that desire to always want to push yourself, do you think that's really helped you to get to where you are in life currently?
Probably, I'm a bold person and I go after what I want, but I don't mind. I mean, I love speaking and I love performing, and I've been in theater since I was little. So it's just part of who I am, I think.
Wow. Why was this not your interesting fact?
I don't know. I don't know if people find that interesting or not.
I did not know this about you at all. Very good. Maybe that's a subject for another interview. But Dr. Yami, I was very excited to hear your topic of intuitive eating and health at every size. Just selfishly, for my own kind of research, this is definitely something that I've been a bit more open-minded to recently looking into. So I'd love to kind of hear your perspective on this important topic.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'm a pediatrician. So I work with children and their parents. And so both of these topics are super important and relevant to children, but I think they're relevant for everybody, especially in a community like ours, where we focus so much on health and well-being. And I think that sometimes what happens is that message gets mixed with this thin ideal that we have for our culture and our society with, even I'm in the United States, but I know this happens in the UK as well and other countries, where the message is, in order for you to be healthy, you must be thin. And so that gets confused also in pediatrics. And then the opposite happens in pediatrics as well, is that families get very anxious if they have a smaller child, whether that child is going to be leaner or shorter. So, in pediatrics, there's so much of an emphasis on size and body weight because we monitor growth. We want to make sure that children are growing. But sometimes parents get very anxious about it. And when that happens, when they get anxious about it, they start to change how they feed their children. And then this interferes with a child's natural intuition. So what I simplify intuitive eating, intuitive eating the term has been around for a while. There is a book called Intuitive Eating from the 80s, and the 4th edition just came out, Elise Resch and Evelyn Tribole. So there's 10 sort of principles there, but I simplify it for children just to mean that they have the ability to tune into their hunger and satiety. They know when to eat and when to stop eating, and children are born this way. Unfortunately, because of our parenting practices and the way we feed children, we teach that out of them. We say, no, you can take one more bite. No, you can't have that brownie until you finish all of your broccoli. We have these sorts of methods so that we teach them to override that natural intuition. So as a pediatrician, what I do is that I help parents relax, take a deep breath, and practice what I have been teaching people, which is called the division of responsibilities, which was created by Ellen Satter, which is that the parent's job is to decide what, when, and where a child is to eat, and a child, their job, their autonomy is to decide if and how much. And because of that, it helps parents relax, step back, know that they're not in charge of the size of their child's body, the weight of their child. What they're in charge of is make sure that they're creating a healthy environment, giving and offering those health promoting foods, which of course, for me, I emphasize whole plant foods as much as possible. And then the child's body is going to do what it does in light of having adequate calories and adequate nutrition. And then that's where health at every size comes in, which has been very misinterpreted by people. So a lot of people believe that health at every size means that every person at every size is healthy. That's not what it means. What it means is that every person has the potential to reach for health and well-being regardless of their size. So whether you're a larger bodied person or whether you're a smaller person, you have the potential to strive for health and well-being. And a lot of it goes with what Koen was talking about recently is, setting goals and tuning into what well-being means for you, because every person's well-being is a little bit differently. So I know that's a lot of topics I just threw out. So I don't know if there's any that you want me to clarify or speak more on, but that's my main area of passion, is intuitive eating and health at every size.
Brilliant. I think you just got a question from Kerry come through. What about children who might not be eating, what you ideally want them to, in terms of you're worried that this might not be too healthy for them? How do you kind of?
Well, what's really interesting fact, 85% of parents label their children as picky eaters. So what does that mean? That means that it's normal. That means that it's normal, especially for children ages 1 through 5. Most of these kids aren't going to be coming to the table and eating a big, gigantic kale salad and being like, oh, this is so great. Their job at this age is to play and explore their environment. And they just eat enough to sate their hunger and keep moving. So what happens is that parents get so focused on, you need to eat more, you need to eat specifically this. But if you are just focused more on creating this healthy environment, having in your household the food that you want your children to eat and providing those foods, they will learn to like that. So the way that children learn how to like food and accept food is through consistency and repetition. When you first feed a little baby, when they first start complementary foods, they make this range of crazy faces and they're gagging and they're doing, and some parents take that to mean, well, they don't like broccoli, so they never ever offer their baby broccoli again. That's not what it is. You have to continue to offer that, because every single flavor that we like as humans, besides breast milk, is an acquired taste. Everything is acquired. That's why there's some kids in some countries that eat super spicy foods, and some kids in some countries that eat like fermented fish or whatever, like super crazy flavors that they learn to like through consistency and repetition. So that's the way that we do that with our own children as well.
Sorry, I was just struggling to unmute myself. Thank you for that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just to speak briefly about, kind of health and weight loss. And certainly as a fitness coach, there's a huge amount of pressure to kind of look a certain way. And so that inevitably attracts clients expecting kind of similar results to what you might have achieved with your body. And, in terms of marketing, that's always kind of sat a little bit questionably to me, because health and weight loss are very different. And this is why I always speak about on social media, likes of Slim Fast and other kind of companies that are just literally holding you accountable to losing weight on a scale, but not thinking about our health. So my question really is, how can we be more mindful and, kind of make steps to just focus more on health? I guess, is that even what you're saying in terms of, we don't have to lose weight in order to be healthy, if you could?
Well, I would even take it a step further and say that the focus should be on well-being. And the reason I say that is because not everybody has the privilege of being healthy, even if they're doing everything, quote, right. And I was thinking about this even when Dr. Leo was speaking, is that there's a lot of shame that people struggle with, whether they got cancer or whether they have high blood pressure, even if they eat all the greens and exercise and sleep. We're humans, we're not robots. We're not meant to be these perfect machines. So we could be doing everything right, and maybe our health isn't where we want it to be, but we can always go towards well-being. We can always try to achieve that. And usually the things that we do to achieve well-being also gets us to our state of health that's right for our body at that time. The problem with focusing on weight loss, and I'm going to say, because I come from a background of chronic yo-yo dieting, very poor body image, self-loathing for decades. Okay. So I just have personal experience with this. Okay. I'm not a naturally lean person. I never have been. You know, I'm Latin American and I have African genes in me as well. So I've got, you know, I just have that kind of body type, you know? So I, from the beginning, surrounded by images of lean people, being told by my family that I needed to lose weight, got caught into this weight loss sort of obsession. You know, I was almost addicted to dieting. So I know how hard it is. I know it's still even hard after so many years of intuitive eating and not focusing on dieting, that sometimes, especially around the holidays right now, a lot of people are wanting to go on cleanses. They're starting to plan for New Year's Eve. I'm going to fast and do all this stuff and lose all the weight from my binging during the holidays. This is the time of year where it's really triggering for a lot of people. So I'm not saying that this is an easy thing, okay? But what I'm saying is that whenever we focus on weight loss first and foremost, it actually detracts from some of the things that we can be doing to reach for well-being and health, and focusing solely on weight loss, especially when it comes to the belief that if we're thinner, we will be more lovable and more acceptable to other people, is very stressful. And that stress itself can be harming our health, you know? So instead, how about we do things that get us to well-being? And for a lot of people, especially if they've been emotionally overeating or eating, you know, maybe the foods that aren't as health promoting, they may actually lose weight. I'm not saying that weight loss is a bad thing. I'm just saying that when we focus solely on weight loss, we tend to choose methods that are not health promoting. And there, you know, that there's so many methods to lose weight, right? People can do Slim Fast. People can do keto. There's all these things. Everybody's doing keto. So if you really want to lose weight fast and you see all your friends losing weight on keto, you might do that, but that's not necessarily going to be better for your health. And that's what happens when we focus solely on weight loss.
Yeah, perfect. Dr. Yami, it pains me to stop at this point because I could continue on for so long, but we have two more speakers to fit in, so we are going to have to move on. But just quickly, does anybody have any questions for Dr. Yami?
Tom, I'd just like to make a comment. I caught Dr. Yami speaking on the Food Revolution Summit during the first lockdown. And I just wanted to thank you because your talk was very encouraging. As a teacher, I work a lot with parents who may be a little bit hard on themselves, that maybe they feel responsible for their children being fussy eaters. And I think your words about creating the environment was very encouraging for parents, that they're not blaming themselves. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you so much for that feedback.
Wonderful. And just quick question from Kerry. How do we get children to want sugar less when it's everywhere?
Yeah, I mean, that's just about creating the environment. So we know that children do spend a lot of time at home eating meals at home. They also are out at school, but we can just do the best that we can at home. But also when I see children that are obsessed with certain foods, there may be some restriction there. So trying to depolarize foods and not call foods junk foods or bad foods, or that's going to hurt you or harm you, because whenever we see foods as black or white in the brain, you know, obviously we're going to want more of that stuff, right? We want more of the things we're not supposed to have. And so whenever I see a child that's particularly, they just are just really obsessed with a certain food or certain type of food, then to me, it indicates that maybe there's some of that psychological, some of that going on psychologically for them. And so try to think about it or work with your child and maybe allow some of that at home every once in a while so that it takes that shininess off of it. You know, it's just a food. And yes, we do have chemical changes in our brains whenever we eat highly processed foods, but the main part that it's coming from is the psychological attachment to it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Dr. Yami. And
Thank
just
you.
in case you do have to pop off, is there anywhere that people can find out a little bit more about you and your engagement?
Yeah, I am happy to stay, but on social media at the Dr. Yami and my website, dryami.com, all spelled out. And then you can find all my kids stuff and everything there, my podcast. So website, dryami.com, and on social media at the Dr. Yami.
Fantastic.
Thank you
so much
Tom.
for your time, Dr. Yami. I do appreciate it. Okay, so next up we have got Shaun, and then after that we've got Naturally Fed, Fed from Naturally Fed, should I say. Shaun, do you want me to fire straight into the video?
Yeah, Tom, that would be great actually, because
Well,
how are you doing, everyone? It's great to be here, first of all. But I think the children, it's nicer if it comes from the children. So that's what was my thinking in the video. I wanted to bring together a program. Just a little bit of background first, Tom. As a school teacher in Ireland, I had become very frustrated with maybe the health eating programs that I seen in the schools. For me, they didn't reflect the science whatsoever. Ireland is I come from a farming background myself, and Ireland is a big agricultural country we're a huge exporter of dairy and beef. And I think the beef and dairy industry have a huge bearing on the food guidelines in Ireland, which I'm sure you're all familiar with that in your own countries as well, which don't necessarily reflect the science. So I wanted to create a program more in line with the science and the whole topic of well-being, and something meaningful that the children could experience and enjoy. And it was something that they really felt the benefits of themselves. And the idea being, if they felt the benefits over the course of a week, the program, I teach all boys. So I called the program Eat Like a Champion Week. And the whole idea was, if they experienced the benefits for themselves, they were more likely to continue them on as a habit. So I think, Tom, if that's okay, it'd be lovely to hear it from the children's own words.
Yeah, brilliant. I will just share my screen and we will get into the video. Okay, can everyone see that? Perfect.
But first, with the help of their...
And how's the sound?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
All good here.
But first, with the help of their passionate teacher, a group of 6th class boys are learning about making healthy lifestyle choices. This morning, Koen found out more.
These boys are scouring the shelves for healthy ingredients. Their teacher has told them all about which ingredients to look for and what to avoid in certain highly processed foods. After getting stocked up, it was time to take the short trip from SuperValue in Northside Shopping Centre back to St. David's Boys National School in Artane. That's because these boys will be preparing their breakfast, lunch, dinner and snacks together for a week. It's a big task, and the boys have volunteered to come into school an hour early and leave 2 hours after school. They cook, eat and tidy up together, focusing on the benefits of working as a community. Their teacher, who has designed the meals in consultation with the doctor, says it's about taking control of their own health, happiness and well-being. They're calling it Eat Like a Champion Week.
I want to be healthy and happy, and it's really good learning how to read labels and know which is good for you and which is bad for you. Between eating healthy, I've had a good night's sleep all the time since I've been eating healthy. I found that if I burn off energy, but once I burn off that energy, I have way more energy after.
They want to show that learning about nutrition is a great way to tackle obesity and make better lifestyle choices. They learn about the science behind choosing a varied diet, all while experiencing foods that they may never have tried before.
And it's not just about eating healthily, you also have to remember to keep fit too. What's those legs, Koen? Come on!
Their 30 minutes of cardiovascular exercise follows 10 minutes of mindfulness. All week, they're making sure to get enough sleep and monitoring the impact all these activities are having on their mood, concentration, and energy levels.
After a week of that experience, I'm hoping that they will feel great. They'll realize how great they can feel when they're eating healthy foods, when they're exercising regularly, when they're getting their 10 hours sleep a night. And I'm hoping that they will feel really energized and they'll feel great, and that they'll bring that forward as a habit.
The boys at St. David's are already seeing benefits, and they hope they can be an inspiration to other children around the country.
So I was just watching everyone's face while we were watching that, and everyone's face just lighting up because it brings such joy, right? Seeing the changes that you're making. It's incredible, Shaun.
Oh, thanks very much, Tom. No, yeah, it was a really, it was a great experience, and it was born from that frustration, Tom, to be honest, because I was seeing school programs on health eating, and I was like, this isn't reflecting the science. And rather than giving out about it, I said, okay, let's just create my own, and that's what we did. And thankfully, that clip was on national news, so I think the children got a great sense of satisfaction that they were helping empower children and families across the country as well. And from that little seed grew a lot of enthusiasm, and a lot of teachers have got in touch. And I've been sharing the program with different schools. And one of the biggest ideas of it was the program was to break, as well as experiencing what's it like to eat these foods. It was breaking down the barriers as well, which I think is very important. Some children have never heard the word legumes before. A lot of families would not understand that they can thrive and be extremely healthy on a whole food plant-based diet. They don't understand that because we are giving them, I suppose we're feeding them the wrong information. And part of my role, as I see it as a teacher, is to help them unlearn what we've all been conditioned to believe through our upbringing. And I think parents are underestimated. Children are underestimated as well, because I found in my experience, I'm in a disadvantaged area of Dublin, and government guidelines are normally underestimating children. But once we give them the correct information, parents and families want to do the best thing, and they act accordingly then. So it really was a great experience, Tom. And the idea now is to bring that to a wider audience, and we have different plans now for the next while, how we can bring it to different schools.
Brilliant. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that later on, Shaun, but just in terms of the how you got the children engaged, I know you've got a 5 ingredients to health and happiness kind of method, if you like.
Yeah, and I know a lot of the speakers have talked about them today. I know Koen mentioned them, and Dr. Leo mentioned them as well. But front and center of our classroom is the 5 ingredients to health and happiness. And I know Dr. Yami and Dr. Klaper often talking about this as well. We're talking about well-being rather than just diet. We're talking about the whole picture of well-being. So front and center of the classroom, I have the 5 ingredients for health and happiness. And one is to eat more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, spices, nuts, and seeds. Nothing new in these, but I think it's powerful to have these front and center of the classroom. Number 2 is to sleep 7 to 9 hours each night for adults, or 9 to 11 for children of school-going age. Moving your body lots every day in every way. So the big message there is it doesn't have to be in a particular way. Whatever you enjoy to do, just get out, move your body lots, and just enjoy it. And that's what makes it sustainable. A huge part then, which I feel is very important part of the puzzle, is being kind to yourself in terms of stress management and just noticing stress. We all letting them know it's okay to be stressed, it's okay just to notice it and do something proactive about that, and teaching them what they can do. For some, it could be just going for a walk with a friend, having a cup of tea, making a phone call to a friend, maybe having a bath, going for exercise. It could be meditating, saying a prayer. Whatever works for them is excellent. And the last one is then just spend quality time with family and friends and social connections. So I have this up in every classroom in the school, a huge kind of display in each classroom. And for me, I think we're missing the point doing our multiplication tables and our long division if children aren't aware of the importance of a good night's sleep. There's no point in them knowing all about ancient Greece if they don't know the benefits of the healthiest foods and how important that is for our well-being and so on like that. So I think this, in order for all other parts of education to be meaningful, I think we have to get ourselves right first. And there was something, I think it was Dr. Leo that said it, and I think we'd all agree that it's lovely to be in such a group here where we've so many like-minded individuals. I think it's very important. I've learned is progress is so important, to meet people where they're at. I know you talk about that. I flew over to London last year, Dr. Klaper, and I was delighted to get to hear you speak over in London. I was trying to get a chat with you afterwards, but you were swarmed by people. But it was just that progress. And what I noticed, I think when I made this transition myself from a farmer's son who ate predominantly animal products to removing them, I felt I was being too critical of children initially. It was like all or nothing approach. And a child would proudly come up to me and go, "Look, sir, I've changed from white bread to brown bread." And I would say something like, "Oh, it's just a pity about that ham and cheese in the middle." And they would return to their seat deflated. And what I've learned in my experience now is it's progress. It's progress. I don't even see the ham and cheese anymore. I give them a high five. I say, "Give me a picture of that." I share it on our school social media with the parents saying, "Well done to Ben, who's just changed from white bread to brown bread. And he's going to add in a bit of tomato tomorrow." So it's just about celebrating that progress. And I think we win more people that way because there's a feel-good factor to it. And that's one of the biggest learnings for me, is keeping it enjoyable, keeping it sustainable, and just focusing on the progress. As much as I don't like to see the ham and cheese in there, I just zone in on the brown bread and adding in more leafy greens into that sandwich and adding in more tomatoes, and it's all about progress.
100%. We're in it for the long game, right? So Shaun, that's incredible. It fills our heart with joy, I think, just to see, kind of what you're up to there. But my question is really, how do we get this out there even more? And I know obviously you've got big plans, so I'd just love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so Tom, one learning from the Eat Like a Champion week, as you can see, there was huge effort went into that. I had to, RT or the national broadcaster, I had to write up press releases trying to get RT in to cover the program. I had to get SuperValue, one of the big supermarket outlets here in Ireland. I got them to sponsor all the ingredients. There's a lot of work went into it. And realistically, I know a lot of you are from healthcare backgrounds. The day is busy enough as well for teachers. And I think we can't overload them with extra workload. So Eat Like a Champion program was great. I think it planted a seed and it got people thinking what was possible. But one of the things I'm often asked by parents, teachers, is, would you have a few simple ingredients or a few simple recipes to get me started? And I was getting that a lot, and it was very time consuming for me getting back to people individually. So this year I'm in the process of writing a free ebook for teachers and parents, and it's just going to have a few introductions from doctors, because I think as much as as we like to think that they listen to the teacher, I think doctors carry a huge level of respect that parents and children would really look up to, and teachers look up to. So I think it carries more weight when the doctors are getting behind it. So the little book is just going to have an introduction from a few doctors. If anyone here would like to write a little paragraph, I would love to include it as an introduction. It's just a little paragraph and a picture explaining why we should eat more plants in our diet, incorporate more plant-based foods. So the book is going to have a little introduction. It's going to address some of the common questions. And Dr. Klaper, I often use your fact sheets. I hope you don't mind me referencing your work, but common questions that keep coming up and up again and again, like, what about milk for healthy bones? Don't we need cow's milk for strong bones? The protein questions, all these regular questions that we're so used to, addressing them. And then most importantly then, 5 breakfast ideas, 5 lunchbox ideas, 5 family dinner ideas, and 5 sweet treat ideas. I'd be very happy. The idea is just to get the information out there, and I'd be very happy to share it when I'm nearly finished it now, so I hope to be finished it early in the new year. And that's one thing we're doing. Also, I spoke to, based on the program, I was asked to speak to it was quite nerve-wracking because it was a new experience for me to speak to a national conference of doctors, and there was 300 doctors at the conference, and that was received very well, just talking about the programs. So now I'm going talking to different doctors all over Ireland to talk about the initiatives that are running in school and how that could be incorporated into a doctor practice, and just some of the ideas that are transferable to healthcare professionals. And another plan for next year, we had a plan for this May, just gone by, but of course with COVID, it wasn't possible, where I'm doing a little tour of some schools in the local area with accompanied by a doctor. And he's going to talk about the health benefits of eating more plants, eating more plant-based, not only for our own health and preventing chronic disease, but also very topically at the minute for reducing the likely risk of a future pandemic, and also obviously for the planet and for undoing some of the damage that we've been doing to this planet of ours. And of course, to reduce the demand for the cruel factory farming methods. I think we all agree that the less factory farms we have, the better. So we're going to do a little talk. I'll talk a little bit about recipes, do a bit of a cooking demonstration, and the two of us will talk about the health benefits as well. So that's the plans to maybe to bring it to a wider audience. And I've also developed some simple one-page sheets to share with different teachers, with schools all over the country, on the need to eat more fibre, incorporating more beans, and having a little health eating program. So I'm working on a different program at the minute. I'd love to share it with you when I'm done.
Brilliant. And where
I didn't flood you with information there on that.
Yeah, no, it's great. Where will we be able to find this, Shaun, when it's out there?
Oh, so yeah, I just set up, Tom, and I just set up, and I'm very grateful that I set it up, because that's where I came into contact with you, Tom. So my Instagram page is called The Active Nutrition Teacher, and the reason for the name is, I suppose getting out, getting active, but also being proactive about health. So it's at The Active Nutrition Teacher, and I'll be updating different programs and what I'll be doing there. And what I'd like to say as well, if the resources that I use are any way useful, I'm happy to email on a copy. I'm already taking bits and pieces from some of the people who are here, your ideas and your work. So if my resources are any way useful for you in your practice, feel free to take them, change the name, adapt them whatever way you want, and you're very welcome to them. I can share any resources.
So I've just put in the chat box a little form that you can put your email address in there. So anything that Shaun wants to send on, or anyone else wants any more information, I can send that along with the recording of the summit as well to you at the end of the call. So that's in the chat box. Does anyone have any questions for Shaun before we move on to our last speaker, Fed from Naturally Fed? Koen.
Yeah, not really a question, but I just wanted to give you some credit for the amazing work that you're doing, Shaun, because this is really inspiring to what you say, right? We are conditioned to think in a certain way, and I think especially kids, they are so perceptible to this new information and so willing to do something with it. So I think as health professionals or social media, we tend to always focus on adults. I am for sure. And I think it's so important to be focusing on the kids as well, because of course they are the upcoming generation. And very, where it taught me, or where I was like immediately thinking about, was like Plant Pure Nation. That was what really made me think about this, the project that you're doing. Of course, they are more community focused, you're more school educational focused, but there might be some opportunities to network with them. I don't know.
It'd be fantastic.
That was something that I was thinking about personally.
Yeah, absolutely, Koen. And Koen, one thing you said as well during your talk about understanding people's why. I'm a very firm believer in that, because I suppose my background, everyone has a why we're all here today on our Sunday, why we all turn up and put in the effort. And that comes, right back to you, Tom, with your energy, enthusiasm. It's infectious. But Koen, when you were saying why, I'm a strong believer in the work that we're all doing. that a powerful why can overcome any how. Like, so when I'm talking about to the boys in my class, I'm meeting them where they're at, and I'm thinking about what their why is. So the boys in my class love football. It's an all-boys school. So I'm talking to them about Cristiano Ronaldo, what he eats after training. I tell a few white lies. Sometimes I give him a recipe for a Cristiano Ronaldo hummus, and then he sits in training with carrot sticks and so on. Like that. I don't know. I just got a recipe, and children, once they heard Ronaldo was doing it, they love it. Like, and like my niece, you know, she doesn't want to hear about type 2 diabetes or heart disease. Like, she's 6 years of age, so we have to keep that light. She wants to hear that the blueberries are making her eyes bluer. She wants to hear that the broccoli is making her hair curlier and shinier. So I think just find out what, you know, the people we're working with, what is their why, and then we can really begin to meet them where they're at, can't we? So I think that's a very important, you know, way of looking at it.
That's really
Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much, Shaun. Really do appreciate it. So at the Active Nutrition Teacher on Instagram. I got that right, Shaun?
Yeah, that's good. I'll put it into the chat box as well, Tom.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And anyone else, any of the speakers want to put their info into there as well, much appreciated. So finally, thank you guys for staying along. I know it's been a long 2 hours, but I really do appreciate your energies and presence. And, you know, it's great to have everyone together with, you know, kind of a shared viewpoint and goals, like you say, Shaun. So Fed, welcome along. It looks like almost virtual Zoom background, but I think you are actually outside.
I am outside. I'm actually celebrating one of the foster children's birthday, so I wanted to participate, but at the same time, I think it's really up with my name. It's naturally fed. I'm in nature. You know, how better, you know, to actually be in the presence of greatness and in nature at the same time. It's amazing.
I love that. Yeah, I'm trying to build this into kind of my coaching as well at the moment. So, for example, I do quite a lot of calls with my clients where we go through coaching calls through the week, and now we do them all walking, because I suddenly thought, why are we sitting down on Zoom? And yeah, now we just get on the phone and, you know, we get our steps in while we're doing our coaching. And I also find that it helps to free up the mind being in the nature, right?
Absolutely, it's just amazing. It's so invigorating, and I just feel the energy. And look at the sunshine just behind me, just a natural glow. You know, it's just what brings our vitamin D and our energy, the prana. You know, the energy of life. So amazing.
Fabulous. Thank you for joining us today, Fed. I'm just going to go through your introduction. So Fed is founder of Naturally Fed, as he said, and has worked tirelessly to create a new model of delivering information, expertise, and experience around natural health and well-being. His main passion in life. Now, he's a qualified naturopath, nutritional coach, and reflexologist. And in his career, he's managed services for people with learning disabilities, physical disabilities, and managed a partnership of charities helping older people. Managed a discrimination law advice service for lesbian and gay people, set up and managed a charity helping LGBT people, and managed a charity supporting victims of domestic violence. He was also honorary counsel for the Republic of San Marino in Wales, and loves traveling and meeting people from all over the world. Fed is always keen to get to know people and help them to understand how they can achieve an amazing life. So we've got a quote here as well. So, as a naturopath and nutrition coach, I've helped many clients transition to plant-based and helping people discover how to heal themselves. I'm passionate about veganism, gut health, mental well-being, and natural remedies. We've got an interesting fact from Fed as well. I forgot Shaun's, I'm going to come back to it. His interesting fact is he was the first gay person to be married in Wales and San Marino, which is where he's from. Great fact. Fed, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. And again, I'm so grateful to be here again in the presence of greatness. So inspired by the work of Shaun and Dr. Yami, and as well, Dr. Klaper, taking my hat off to you after everything you've done for your pioneering work. But yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. And I think I just wanted to start really by you know, just bringing back that point about working with young people and how essential that is, because as a foster carer and having been a child myself and raising children, you know, it's such an important point, not so much about, you know, the healthy eating or trying to inspire people with veganism, but it's just about understanding the impact that the food has, the energy that we're putting into us, you know, the nutritional values, you know. And you know, I think that we are at a point where we are experiencing and witnessing such an amazing shift in society with the plant-based diet, and so many people turn into veganism with Vegan January and all of these amazing campaigns. But yet we are still failing to educate people about what this means, because it seems to be a trend, you know, something that is fashionable to do, as opposed to understanding the health implications that our choices have. And of course, with that, we also experience so many companies that are bringing out their vegan products, and they must be clapped by, you know, 100%. Just because we got vegan options, it doesn't mean that we're following a healthy diet. And of course, there's so much that is processed with soya products, you know, so many yummy things. I mean, just recently I saw an advert from my local shop. They're bringing out vegan donuts with salted caramel. I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, when I went vegan, the first, you know, at first these things did not exist, you know, but just because they are around us, it doesn't mean that we're eating healthy food. You know, so obviously we are here to talk about vegan health, and I think that for me, vegan health starts in the gut, 100%, and it's definitely something that we're not talking about. Because I think, you know, people don't want to talk about digestion because the end result is poo. You know, I love to talk about poo. I talk about poo all day if I could. No, because it's a sexy topic by any stretch of the imagination, but it's such an important one when we're talking about, you know, being healthy, because so many people are constipated, suffer with IBS, and so many digestive issues that often are the result of poor diet options and poor education. So in the children that I've looked after as a foster carer, a lot of the times when I experience people that have come to me, young people with autism, with ADHD, with eczema, you know, asthma, you know, just all symptoms of pure nutrition, really, in my opinion, because I've seen that just working with young people and actually making those conscious decisions about what foods might be beneficial or less, a lot of these conditions clear up with time. You know, so it has to be understood, and it has to understand as well what impact the food can have on our mental health as well. Because of course, when we are congested, if we're not digesting properly, you know, we're not feeling great, and through the vagus nerve, that link between the gut and the brain, you know, we just end up not feeling well in terms of our emotions as well. You know, so it is a massive area of my work, you know, to understand and broadcast this as much as possible, and certainly focusing a lot on younger people. You know, although I do support a lot of well, generally it's more adults, so they come to my practice and through the work that I do, but I am very conscious that the knowledge really needs to be shared with younger people as much as possible at this point. So that's really that would be my premise to anything. But when we're talking about gut health, from my point of view, I mean, the most significant shift in my own health, and I come from an Italian background, where I've been brought up obviously with you know, pasta, pizza, you know, and all the stereotypes that you want to throw to Italy, but certainly not a healthy diet. And you know, growing older as well, and going to university, going to live abroad, experimenting with food, and at the time I wasn't vegan, you know, so there was a lot of meat in my diet. I ended up myself with a lot of inflammation, carpal tunnel, to the point that, you know, I thought that I was going to be disabled because I couldn't even hold my phone to my ear, you know, as much as it was a light item, you know, but I was really overweight, and also, you know, generally I had so many different issues, you know, in terms of how I was feeling, depression, anxiety, all these things needed to be so, one of my children just trying to get my attention, but I had so many issues that I felt were going to be chronic, and that they were going to be you know, things that I couldn't resolve because they were creating such a massive impact on my health. And actually, as I said, I did start making some shifts in terms of reducing the meat and reducing things that maybe I felt were creating inflammation. But when I went vegan is where I started really seeing the shift. But secondarily, but probably more significantly, is when I started introducing probiotics in my diet. And the probiotics that I introduced were in the form of fermented foods. So a lot of the research that I looked at was in terms of where the most efficient and effective probiotics are going to come from. And looking in history, fermented foods have been around, with us all the time. And a lot of the times they also have disappeared because maybe they haven't been as fashionable, they haven't been as discussed and researched. But certainly now I feel that the research is focusing a lot into gut health, into understanding the symbiotic relationship that we have with the microbiome in our gut, because if you start looking at the numbers in itself of little creatures that live inside us or within us, they actually outcount the number of cells that make up our body. So we do need to understand how these microorganisms work and what they do to contribute to our health. So of course, if we are going to eat foods that are not good for us, and some people might have heard of things like candida, for example, that can be sometimes really prevalent in society and will thrive on sugary food, for example. This will create a negative impact into our well-being. And of course, the more we do this, the more we are going to get ourselves into more chronic conditions. Whereas when we start eating good food, we're feeding good bacteria, and we can end up with a little bit of a better health. Again, I think that the shift needs to be gradual. Most of the times, when you expect people, well, a lot of the people that come to me will expect changes overnight when they change to a vegan diet, for example. And I always explain, that just in doing that, it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily change your health at the same time, because the gut bacteria, the microbiome, will need the time to adapt. So there will be some bacteria that will not survive because you're not feeding the meat, for example, anymore. And there will be new bacteria that will colonize your gut as you're starting to introduce different foods. So there are all these intricate relationships within our gut that really can have a significant impact in terms of where we go with our health. I do find that a lot of the fermented foods that I tried, all benefit our diet and our health. I particularly like kombucha, which is a drink that I produce and I sell as well, and obviously is one of the drinks that I've experimented with the most, and ended up, I think I've got 14 different flavors at the moment on the market, just to create that variety, which really for me was about not just experimenting with flavors, but it was about trying to get a product that people would find beneficial and attractive to drink, so that it's not a chore to actually look after your health. And talking about children in particular, when I was experimenting with some of the flavors, having my children doing the test and actually, try this, and let me know what you think about it. I found it so inspirational. That sometimes those drinks, not only the kids liked, but they would also say, "Oh, this tastes like Fanta." So they would then say, "Can I have some Fanta?" And actually, what I was serving them was kombucha. So they developed the taste buds, as Dr. Yami was saying, over time. They went from something that maybe they would initially turn their nose up to something that actually they were asking for. And that, I think, is significant for everyone, because very often we are put off. I was the first one to be put off by kombucha because actually it didn't smell nice for me. It didn't taste right. And when I started, reading and researching about it, I thought this is just too good not to put into my body. It was only when I experimented with recipes and trying over and over and over that my taste buds changed. And all of a sudden I thought, okay, wait a minute, this tastes to me like cider. I can drink this, no problem whatsoever. But it's probably because my taste buds had changed, and obviously the flavors that I was experimenting with as well were more attractive and more palatable to my own liking. So it is about trying to influence, how people eat and what they eat, understanding more about the impact that the food will have, and also how they can change, their health at 360 degrees by just pivoting that 1% on a daily basis. I'm conscious of time because I know that I only had 10 minutes, but that was the core of the message that I wanted to bring here today. I don't know whether we got more time, Tom, if you want to advise me on that, or otherwise I'm happy to take any questions.
I think we'll try and keep it to time as much as possible, but just a couple more minutes if anyone's got. That was great though, thank you, Fed. If anyone's got any questions on what you've spoken about already, Shaun, yes, after you.
Yeah, Tom, I'd love to ask Federico a question. Yeah, Federico, I'd love to hear your opinion on probiotic supplements. As someone who had personally who had issues when I transitioned to, even before, but I had IBS, and when I transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet, I was still experiencing discomfort and bloating, and I think that's quite common. And for about, I've been whole food plant-based for 5 years now, and I was lucky enough to get chatting to Dr. Micheal Greger, who had a big part in me changing the way I eat over in London. And I was nearly giving out to Dr. Greger. I said, Dr. Greger, what's the story here? I'm 4 years into this and I'm still getting discomfort. Should my gut microbiome not? And he actually advised me to try a mixed acidophilus probiotic, which was against the advice of a lot of gastroenterologists, such as, well, maybe not against, but a lot of the top gastro doctors don't seem to have much time for probiotic supplements, like Dr. Alan Desmond and Dr. Will Bolsowitz. They always they're very skeptical of them. But for me, I'm sorry, this is the longest question you've ever heard, Federico. For me, it was instant benefit straight away. I was like, whoa, this really worked. What's your thought on probiotic supplements? I've been on them a year now, and I just find that I'm tolerating all the whole plant foods that I was always eating so much better. What's your thoughts on them, Federico? Are you skeptical, or are you pro supplements?
Well, I'd have to say that as a naturopath, my immediate answer would be to turn to nature. So obviously, when we're talking about probiotics, I would suggest and I do recommend to my clients to go with fermented foods because of that, because you're basically going to get the most absorbable type of probiotics when you're not going to synthetic probiotics. So if you're talking about synthetic probiotics, it's just a problem of absorption and how they react in our body. If you start looking at natural probiotics, some of the brands that will be plant-based, will be the best ones working with yourself. But certainly the ones that I know that I have the best results with is always the live probiotics that you get from fermented foods. And the reason why I went down the route of kombucha for myself was there are 16 different strains of probiotics in that one drink. And obviously, I mean, if someone wanted to really look at the diversity of the microbiome that you want to introduce into your diet, I would suggest that you don't just go with kombucha. You can also go to kefir, kimchi, tempeh, miso. The more you put into you, and the more your gut, the gut bacteria will be more diverse and more efficient at helping you with the breakdown of nutrients. It has to be said as well that what you started with in terms of the problems with bloatiness or kind of digestive systems, when you start putting in foods like legumes that maybe some people would not have eaten before as much, before going to a plant-based diet, you do not have necessarily the bacteria to digest the foods that you haven't had before. Some people might have had as well conditions previously that would have required a lot of medication. Now with the medication, you're going to kill as well the good bacteria. So putting in the probiotics is going to help you to repopulate. And that would happen, even whether you're following the vegan diet or not. If you have medication in your life, then that's what you need to do, is to make sure that you have something to help you, with everything that you're putting in. So it's not just what you're eating, it's how you digest it as well. So that's the importance of the probiotics. I'm definitely in favor, but I would opt for the more natural sources.
Yeah. Thank you, Federico. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fed. Where can people find out a little bit more about you and Naturally Fed?
Sure. So the website to go to is naturallyfed.co.uk, and as well on Facebook and Instagram is Naturally Fed UK for both of them.
Fabulous. Well, thank you everyone so much for coming along today. Apologies for the slight overrun, but it's been an amazing event. It went better than I could imagine, and I hope to do plenty more in the future. So I appreciate you giving your time on a Sunday. Time is our most precious thing, right? And for us all to sit in this virtual room and share our experiences and thoughts, you know, as a community of people together, I think it's a really powerful thing. So I'd just like to quickly run through the speakers. Dr. Leo Venus, unfortunately, couldn't stay on, but you can find him at Dr. Leo Venus on Instagram. And Dr. Micheal Klaper, if you wouldn't mind just telling everyone where they can find out a little bit more.
Right. My website is drklaper.com, spelled out DOCTORKLAPER.com. And you can find all the information you need there.
Fabulous. And Koen? Oh, you're muted, Koen.
Unmute. Now here we are. Yeah. Again, so appreciative for being here and being able to share and listen to all of this information. Very empowering. So you can find me on where I'm most active is Instagram. Actually, at the moment, Instagram.com/The Vegan Academy.
Fabulous. And over to Dr. Yami. I think we already said, didn't we? But we'll go again.
Yes, so on social media at the Dr. Yami, and my website is dryami.com, also spelled out like Dr. Klaper.
Fabulous. And Shaun, just to remind us again, I know it's in the chat, but you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so just the Active Nutrition Teacher. It's a new page, and I just set it up a few months ago. So I hope to share the different initiatives I'll be running in school for healthy, whole food, plant-based eating and well-being through the Instagram page.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. So if you have got time, just quickly click on that link in the chat box and put your email address in there, and I'll be able to update you with any updates that we've got from any of the speakers if they want to send anything along, and also provide you with the recording so we can go back and dig into those knowledge bombs. Again, guys, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, and I wish you all a very happy, safe Sunday. And I'm going to say it, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Tomm.
Thank you so much, Tomm.
Thank you, Tomm. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.